York-bound publications. Episode 5 Sweet Cheeks. I knew I was going to go downstairs and check out the action the second I was asked to. Hell, what was the worst that could happen? I'm pretty sure everyone I owed money to 12 years ago are dead, locked up, or moved on to some other form of making income by now. I hoped. But, I seriously doubted that loan sharking was still as big a thing as it was around here 12 years ago. I doubted I would see anyone I owed money to around here. The moment I stepped into the casino, I recognized a few familiar faces. The weird-ass bull Jack was sitting at the poker table with pretty-ass Jamila from up Park Avenue. I always wanted to get with her. She was the baddest joint in the hood back in the day. By the looks of things, she still was. So why the fuck was she with that weird-ass nigga? Things that made you say, Anyway, it wasn't money, that was for sure. Jamila had always been known as one of the biggest gamblers around here, and after taking a look at her neck, wrist, and diamond earrings, sis was still doing it big. I smiled as I looked in Jamila's direction. She smiled as she waved at me. I gave a nod to the weird-ass bull Jack, as I continued to scan the room for familiar faces in the crowded casino. "Hey stranger." I heard someone say from behind, before I felt a hand on my shoulder. If it was one thing I knew, it was the feel of a woman's hands on my body. This was definitely a woman with her hand on my shoulder. I smiled as I turned around to see what beauty awaited my eyes. It was fucking Jessica. The one person I was hoping to avoid running into more than any other person in the world right now. "Hey Jess, how you been?" I asked as nonchalantly as possible. I thought I did a pretty good acting job. The truth was that I was sweating bullets, and might be feeling some actual ones shortly. "You know how I've been. I've been waiting to do this." Jess whispered into my ear before she cupped my balls in her hand. I could feel her begin to squeeze me nads. It wasn't a light squeeze either. Sis had my nuts in a vice grip at the moment. Things sure have changed since I've been gone. I remember when having your balls cupped used to be a pleasant experience. This was not a pleasant experience. This was that bullshit. I dared not say a word to Jess about it, but I said this shit to myself, right before I dropped to my knees from the pain of being used as a fresh orange, who just had the orange juice squeezed out of it. Jess had finally freed the balls and I dropped right to the ground and balled up like a baby, as I grabbed me nads and writhed around on the floor in extreme pain. Jess laughed before she kicked me in the back. "Come to my office and see me before you leave this casino, dickhead," Jess said calmly before she turned and walked away. "Office?" I asked, mostly to myself. What the fuck was she talking about? What office? I'ma do that, Jess. I'ma come see you in a minute," I said to Jessica's back, after I quickly picked myself up from the ground, and tried to pretend that we were just kidding. I don't know, but I just hated looking like a jackass in public. I was looking real hee-hawish right about now. Everybody was looking at my dumb ass and cracking the fuck up. I deserved that though. Especially after what I'd put Jessica through. The fucked up part was that I don't think the balls in a vice John she just put on me was the end of Jessica's get back at me. Jessica and I had a history that went beyond the shit that she currently wanted my head on a platter for. Me and Jessica had a long history. A long history of me. Fuck no. I ain't taking blame for this shit this time. Jessica Bender is a horrible person. There. I finally said it. She got some good pussy though. Real talk. And that is exactly why what just happened. Feel me? No the hell you don't, liar. Let me break the story of me and Ms. Jessica Sweet Cheeks Bender down to you right quick. Jessica and I met shortly before I left the city 12 years ago. She was a little older than me, and that was the thing that attracted me to her the most. I was 17 and a half, basically 18 when we met. Jess was 24 years old and gorgeous. We quickly became exactly what I feared, in our first few weeks of knowing one another, friends. The kind of friend she was never going to have sex with. Like, not even if you were the last person on earth, kind of never. Things changed one night when Jess took me out for a night of drinking and dancing. A perfect blend of activities to loosen things up, and make a situation go from friendship to, oops, that was a mistake we can never do again, in the blink of an eye. Feel me? Everything started when she kissed me while we were dancing at a reggae club, of all places. That was Jessica's idea. I'm more of an 80s and 90s R&B type of cat. But, I must admit, Jessica's choice of club was better. At least, on this night. The DJ was in his bag all night with the throwback jams, but the moment that Jackal the Bear John came on the entire place went absolutely insane. You know which John I'm talking about. The joint for real. Remember that John? That joint has always been one of those get your ass on the dance floor joints. I tried to resist as Jess pulled me toward the dance floor, but she was having none of it. She smiled as I allowed her to lead me to the dance floor. She laughed a little as I began to get my groove on, but that laugh quickly turned into something else when she playfully started swaying her hips to the music seductively. She licked her lips as she put her arms around my neck. When our bodies touched, I could have sworn I felt an electric shock run through my body. We began grinding and kissing right there on the dance floor like we were the only two people in the place. Jessica moved my hands from her waist and maneuvered them to her voluptuous butt cheeks. They felt like two of the softest pillows ever invented. This was the moment that me and Jess crossed that line. Whatever reason she had for looking at me as anything other than an expert lover, was gone. I knew the shit was going down, even before she initiated the move toward my face that led to our lips meeting for the very first time. That kiss sealed the deal for me. My heart belonged to Jessica, from that moment forward, or at least, that was what I whispered into her ear. Long story short, I got those drawls, dog, on that night. I can't lie, the cheeks were as good as advertised. Everything was cool. As far as Jess could see, we were likely at the very beginning of a new and beautiful relationship. My thoughts were a little different. This was a one and done John for me. I probably wouldn't have felt this way if Jess hadn't withheld sex from me for weeks and weeks. That shit was corny to me. Time did not buy my loyalty. Time is honestly not enough to buy anyone's loyalty, or at least it shouldn't be. If I was going to love Jess, it really didn't matter if she would have gave me the cheeks on the very first night, or 110 years from now. What it was going to be, was what it was going to be. It was already written. You ever heard that saying, for every action, there is a reaction? This was my reaction to Jess's action of withholding sex from me. Sis was never going to see me again after that night, was my plan, but sometimes plans get fucked up. You feel me? Jessica and I ended up starting a relationship, after all. I was 17 years old at the time. Jessica had her own crib, and she allowed me to be the king of that motherfucker. I had never experienced any shit like this in my life. At home there's always a bunch of rules you gotta follow. Rules made by Ma and Pa Dukes. Bullshit rules, if I can add my 2 cents to the conversation. But, here at Jess's crib, I make the rules. Jess had some good pussy, but being 17 years old with some good in-house poontang and a place that was basically yours, was some next level shit to 17-year-old me. Yeah fam, I was whipped. There was no way in hell I wasn't going to take full advantage of this shit. I had to use Jess's car to drive her to work every morning. I didn't own a car at 17, but after that, I had 8 whole hours to do me with. And a vehicle to do me with. A crib to do, well, someone in. Feel me? My life was the shit at that moment. Jess even gave me weed, gas, and food money every morning. She gave me haircut money on Thursdays too. I was cheating my ass off and she gave me every single tool that I needed in order to successfully cheat my ass off. I was young, stupid, and horny. At first. I am now grown enough to admit that. Things changed when Jess introduced me to a small-time crew of thieves who I named the Filthy Bunch, or FB for short. The FB consisted of 1 chick and 2 dudes. Jess called them friends, but after taking one look at this grimy trio, I was certain that these 3 were not Jess's friends. They were money-hungry users in my opinion, hobos, if you will. Not drug users. I'm just talking about the type of people who take someone's kindness for a weakness, or even worse, a person's kindness for being naive. I think these assholes thought both about Jess. I ain't like that shit at all, and I knew bringing it to Jess was an argument waiting to happen. What was bothering me the most was that Jess acted like she couldn't see it. Why the fuck was I able to see something she wasn't? This shit was really bothering me. Well, more like, making me want to turn into Inspector Gadget and get to the bottom of this weird user shit. What did they get out of it? If there was one thing I hated, it was an unfinished puzzle. I planned to expose these frauds for the whole world to see, well, at least expose the users enough for Jessica to hopefully, finally see the light. Feel me? The chick was named Sabrina. She was supposedly married to the dude Reds. The other dude, Teddy aka Theo, was supposed to be a good friend of Red's. I said, supposed to be, because it didn't take me more than 2 minutes to see that Sabrina and Theo were fucking, and Reds knew, or even worse, didn't give a fuck. A blind man could see that shit. Why Jess couldn't, or acted like she couldn't see it, was beyond me. Anyway, at first they were coming over the crib under the guise that they were partying. Just them, well, us. I mostly watched, as I continued to attempt to grasp what type of weird shit was going on here. The Filthy Bunch always brought some weed with them, I'll give those peons credit for that much. Some good weed too. The first night they came over, we played Uno while we sat around drinking and smoking, gas nigga. These weird motherfuckers definitely had that gas. I pretended not to know how to play, so I could sit the game out. I needed to watch. Not the game, I was checking for body language. That's usually a dead giveaway for some weird shit. Like reactions to certain words or names type of shit. Honestly, it reminds me of a lie detector test. You know how on the movies they say, the lie detector picks up changes in temperature, or emotions, or some shit when a person hears something? That's what I was hoping to see as I watched the game from the sidelines. I sat in the corner and pulled out my phone. I opened up Facebook and checked Sabrina's Facebook page, just out of curiosity. I'm lying. I told y'all I was trying to get to the bottom of this weird ass shit, that I was certain was going down between these three. I was hoping to see if Jess was involved in their weirdness too, or just a naive, innocent bystander in this thing, that I was pretty certain was some type of situationship, between these three very weird individuals. Sabrina's Facebook page was disappointing, to say the least. Her and Reds were actually married, and appeared to the naked eye, to have the perfect relationship, friendship, and marriage. 2 kids, family trips, a dog, family reunions and shit, family parties, and blah, 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 blah. In this day and age, that was a dead giveaway for some hidden dirt. I just needed to find the shit. As Jess and the weirdos continued drinking, smoking, playing cards, and now, also snorting cocaine, it started to feel like everyone had forgotten that I was in the room. Things were really beginning to loosen up. The combination of party favors everyone were currently enjoying, was definitely helping to soothe some tense nerves, and help some loose lips get the engine running. Some things I heard were surprising, some not so surprising. But, here's a piece of info I did find out from the social partying group. Sabrina, Theo, and Reds were going to rob some shit. I never heard anyone say specifically what they were going to rob, but it felt to me like it was a pretty big lick, or at least what these peons considered a big lick. But, I think whatever they were going to rob, there was an expectation of facing some resistance. That was clear from the weapon this dickhead Reds nigga had kept showing to anyone that would look, almost from the moment he'd walked into this bitch. I knew Reds, Theo, and Sabrina were bad news. I was just beginning to realize how bad the news was though. At least, for my baby Jess. I'm not the brightest bulb in the 6-pack of lights on sale for 99 cents at the dollar store, but I was pretty certain that there was a part of this brilliant plan that these assholes were leaving out. The part about having my baby Jess take the fall for whatever the fuck they were planning to do.